This is just a quick overview of our science fair packet. So you can refer back to this video if you just need some extra guidance on where to fill some information out, where to find things if you need it, if you are working on this at home or at school. So to start, our first page is our glossary. So these are terms that really we should be familiar with before starting our project, but if you ever need to reference back to them, they are here in the beginning of your packet. So we have our controlled variables, data, dependent variable, experiment, hypothesis, independent variable, inference, observation, procedure, results, the scientific method, trial, and variable. So again, these are just some reoccurring vocabulary terms that we are going to be using throughout this process. And these definitions are here for you if you need to just refer back to them at any point. On the next two pages is where you are really going to be jotting down your background research. So there's different areas for you to write down facts that you found and also for you to write down the source where you found this information. You need to do a little bit of research on your topic so that your experiment can be the best that it can be and so that you're an expert on your topic. So you need to make sure that these sources are trustworthy. We are actually going to be doing a little lesson on finding credible sources, so you can also ask me for help if need be. But here, this is a great space for you to list several facts about your topic in the space provided, about background information, the science behind your experiment. So, this is where you'll do that. Next, it really breaks down the scientific method on page 12 right here. So you are going to jot down, what is your topic question? What is the question that I'm trying to answer throughout this experiment? Next, you are going to be writing down your hypothesis. So this is where you are going to write down your if-then statement. If I do this, then I think this is going to happen. Next, you are going to identify your different variables. So where it says independent variable right here, this is the only thing that you are changing when you conduct your tests. For your dependent variable, this is what you are testing for. This is usually measured in some way. And finally, your controlled variables. These are the things that are staying the same throughout your experiment. You're probably going to have more than one of these, and you can list them all in the space provided. Next, your procedures. This is where you are going to write your step-by-step directions for how you are going to conduct your experiment. So you can use this page to make sure you're numbering your steps. If you need more room to list your steps, you can use a separate piece of paper. But after you write down your procedures, make sure that you are also putting them down on your procedure slide on your PowerPoint. Next, on page 14, you'll see the materials checklist. This is where you're going to include all of the materials that you need in order to conduct your experiment. So make sure, again, you are being specific with your materials and that you are including units. Again, once you write down all of your materials, you can then transfer them over onto your PowerPoint slide. Next, this is where you're going to be conducting your experiment. So once you have your procedures in order, your materials are in place and collected, you've gotten approval from your teacher, you can finally begin your experiment. You are either going to be conducting your experiment at home with your family, or you can reach out to Miss Wolf and set up a time after school to conduct your experiment at school if you need some materials or you would just like some teacher help. So, some experiments will take days or even weeks, and they'll often need to be monitored pretty closely to really look for your data. You can use the next few pages to track your data, and we are going to actually be using that data to make them into a graph. So if you take a look on the next slide, next paper, I know that it's turned to the side, but here are some different ways for us to record our data. We can either make a bar graph, a T-chart, or a line graph. This is really just a place, recording data my chart. This is just a place for you to really jot down your notes. your observations, your data as you are working your way through your experiment. And finally, you're going to analyze your results. And this is where you are going to use this information to put onto your conclusion slide on your PowerPoint. Now that you've completed your experiment, you actually need to answer your original question that you started your experiment with. So, what was that original question that you asked? And whether you are going to write down whether or not your hypothesis was correct or supported. Finally, you're going to look over your data, you're going to analyze it, and you're going to write a rough draft summary. Explain what you noticed, what surprised you, what challenges you might have faced, what went well, and your final conclusion. You may also want to include any other relevant or interesting points in this section. You're going to use this to write your final report and make sure you answer your original question in your summary.